Today on Tiny Voices, we're going to take a look at how a little ingenuity turned a few famous bugs into game-defining features. That and more today on Tiny Voices. If you've ever played Half-Life 2 Episode 2, you'll remember the Hunter-Chopper fight. The salvos of bullets from its Gatling gun, frenetically scrounging for health and cover, and whittling it down slowly by using the gravity gun to lob the chopper's bombs back at it. And then it unleashes this last-ditch effort desperation attack in the form of a hailstorm of bombs. It's an awesome bookend to a tense encounter, and it happened by accident. Like so many features, it started life as a bug. The chopper you see has two attack types. It has attack type 1, which is firing volleys from its minigun, and it has attack type 2, which is shooting the bomb out. And towards the latter parts of the fight, it gains a third attack type, which is shooting the volley of bombs down. That originally happened due to a programming error, where the programmer accidentally set the chopper to use its attack type 2 when it was intended to just use the Gatling gun, and it resulted in a Gatling gun style spray of rapid fire bombs. So many bombs filled the screen as a result of this bug that the sequence was unplayable and it was completely unstable. But once they scaled it back a little bit, they found that it gave the fight this spectacular flourish. And this is something that's been happening in game development for longer than you think. Bugs at times have birthed new games and defined entire genres. Quake, for instance. So much of what Quake is defined by the movement, the mobility, the blistering fast speed. Two staples of Quake's lateral and vertical mobility were not a part of the GDD for Quake 2. I'm talking about strafe jumping and rocket jumping. Strafe jumping is essentially a movement exploit that exists because of a bug in Quake 2's physics engine that allows you to rapidly accelerate by using a combination of the mouse along with the forward and strafe keys. Rocket jumping allows for similar bursts of speed and height by timing a jump precisely as you shoot a rocket against a nearby surface. Despite attempts to fix these bugs that showed up in Quake 2, it eventually settled on these exploits as features that made Quake what it is today. And in 1995, DMA, who would go on to become Rockstar North, were developing Race and Chase, which was a top-down, mission-focused driving game where you could play as either a cop or a robber. While developing the title, QA testers found an AI bug, where during chase sequences, the pursuing vehicles would behave erratically and just ram the player's car off the road. But everyone had such a blast with it that Race and Chase was eventually retooled and refocused around that facet of the pursuit. It focused more on emergent gameplay in an open city, wherein you would solely play as a robber who would often end heists pursued by similarly erratic cop cars. Race and Chase made it to store shelves with its new focus and a new name to go with it, Grand Theft Auto. These next two have far-reaching implications not just for the franchises they birthed or defined, but for their entire genres. First, there's Devil May Cry. Everyone knows the story of how an early version of Resident Evil 4 splintered off to become Devil May Cry, but not everyone knows the role another Capcom franchise had in shaping Devil May Cry. That game is Onimusha Warlords. A bug which Hideki Kamiya noticed early on in the development of Onimusha Warlords provided the entire backbone for not just Devil May Cry, but for all stylish character action titles like it. The bug in question allowed for enemies to be juggled with successive sword strikes, something that was never intended. That bug became the basis for enemy juggling in Devil May Cry. And finally, the next one is commonly misunderstood. A common piece of gaming minutia is that combos in Street Fighter 2 were the result of a bug that forever changed the landscape of fighting games. That isn't entirely correct. Number one, combos in general being the result of a bug is just flat out inaccurate. Combos are the inevitable result of frame data. Most fighting games run at 60 frames per second, and every button that you push has properties measured in frames. A jab, for instance, might be 3 frames. What that means is that when the game receives the signal from your button press to jab, the jab takes 3/60ths of a second to become active. It also takes a specific amount of time to recover from throwing out that jab before you can hit another button or take another action. The time that it takes to recover is also measured in frames. So let's say your 3-frame jab has 2 recovery frames. In other words, it takes 3/60ths of a second for the jab to activate, and then another 2/60ths of a second for your character to recover so you can do another move. And if you hit someone with your 3-frame jab, they go into a hit stun animation where they reel back from the attack. Again, the amount of time that they're in hit stun can be measured in frames. Let's say, and again, this is just for example, they take 8/60ths of a second, that's 8 frames, to recover. At this point, you're in a state of what people call a frame advantage. You recovered in 2/60ths of a second. They recovered in 8/60ths of a second. That creates a difference of 6 frames where you have the advantage and you can move around and take an action. In other words, your 3-frame jab is +6 on hit. That means that any button that you hit that starts up in under 6 frames can't be blocked because they're still going to be in hit stun recovery. Those form the basis for a specific type of combo called a link. So in other words, some combos are just the inevitable result of math and not really glitches. Now, second, the specific type of combo that people are probably referring to when they tell you that a glitch created combos are special cancels. A special cancel is simply the act of inputting the motion for a special move immediately after hitting a normal, so that both the normal move followed in quick succession by the special come out. Street Fighter II designer Akira Nishitani once explained that in the original Street Fighter it was too difficult and required too much precision to do special moves, so he added a few frames of input leniency to make it a little bit easier to execute things like fireballs and shoryukens. This came with the unintended side effect of allowing people to special cancel their attacks, and since then special canceling and later super canceling became a huge staple of not just Street Fighter but many other fighting games. They caught this little unintended side effect during development and kept it in anyway because they felt that it opened the game up. So to say that a bug created combos is both right and wrong for those reasons. Now I should say for the record that Nishitani himself doesn't consider special canceling to be a bug, but it's still kind of up in the air as to what exactly that unintended side effect can be classified as. But that's going to do it for this episode of Tiny Voices. The topics for the next 2 weeks of Tiny Voices are going to be variations on a theme, because they're both inspired by Dark Souls 3. Don't worry, I'm not actually going to be spoiling anything about Dark Souls 3, we're just going to use Dark Souls as a jumping off point to talk about a few different things, like worldwide releases and analysis paralysis. So I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching everyone, take it easy, have a good one.